Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of the Santa Barbara County for April 9th, 2025. Please begin with joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Villalobos, do you want to do our coverage announcement and roll call?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to the Commission. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on County of Santa Barbara Television, CSB TV, Channel 20 at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, San Maria, and Orchid areas. Rebroadcast of Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays at 5 p.m. on CSB TV, Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on the county's website as well as the county's YouTube channel and will be available for download in a day or two. Moving on to roll call, Commissioner Cooney.
Here.
Commissioner Park.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Martinez.
Here.
And Chair Bradley.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. Our agenda status report. Secretary Wilson, would you like to do that?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, we have one item on our consent agenda, which is the government code consistency or determination for Laguna Sanitation District. And then we have on our standard agenda, we have one item, which is the Rancho Luis Equestrian Facility. My understanding is that staff and the applicants are ready to present on those items today.
Very good. Any questions from the commission? I don't think so. Okay, that brings us to our our public comment portion of the agenda, which is, oh, hello. God, you guys, I'm sorry. Yes, let's move on to the projection report.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm looking at our projection report. We have nothing else projected for this month of April, which is we have been meeting almost every week since the beginning of January. So I think we've run out of things to put on the projection report at this current moment. So I would recommend that we cancel the April 30th when I get done with the projection report hearing. And then we move into May, which is currently we have 3 items projected for that. We have the appeal of the an ADU modification, the tentative map for in Toro Canyon, and then we have the senior mobile home park overlay ordinance. And then I'm just getting a message from staff that we'd like to also put the item that Commissioner Park has been requesting, which is the housing bill briefing to the Planning Commission on that date, on May 7th. So that would fill up that day for May 7th. And then at a previous hearing, we canceled the May 14th hearing. And then on May 28th, we have the 5-year capital improvement program, comprehensive plan, conformity determination, tentatively scheduled for that date. As of right now, we don't have anything else projected out beyond May 28th. But I'm sure we will be filling that up quickly. So to conclude, I'd recommend we cancel the April 30th, or we can trail that till the end of today to see how the hearing goes, in case we wanted to have another hearing.
Okay, let's do that. Let's pick that up at the end of our regular agenda. All right, thank you for that. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none. Now we go to our public comment report, which is anybody who wants to address the commission on items not otherwise agendized for today's meeting. You have an opportunity to do that now. I don't have any speaker slips for that. Is there anybody online, Mr. Villalobos?
For those of us joining online, if you'd like to speak during general public comment, raise your hand and I'll call on you. Seeing no hands.
Okay, then I will close the public comment portion of the agenda and move on to our item number 7, which is our Planning Commissioner's informational reports. Does anybody have anything to share? I started my new job on Monday. Long-range planning at the City of Santa Barbara. If I make a mistake in nomenclature, please forgive. I'm seeing nothing else, and commission moves on to the minutes that we have on our packet, March 26th. Does anybody have a motion or a correction? March 26 minutes.
I'll move approval, Madam Chair.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Fisher Reed, great. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving right along to the Director's Report and Board of Supervisors hearing summary. From the
I'm here.
Ethisphere.
I am
Director
here.
Plowman.
How are you all?
Very well.
Okay. I'm sorry I missed the
Wow.
last meeting. But I was out ill, unfortunately. And I have a few things to report. Yesterday we had a board hearing. We had a number of items at the board that we were in. Two were planning and development items, and one was a CFD item on workforce housing.
Hang on. Wait. Yeah, Director Plowman, there's a lot of static coming through. Is there any way we can fix that? I'm not sure if it's on your microphone or on our end. Do we know?
Does that help?
No. Say again. It's almost like you're speaking too close to the microphone. Try again.
Oh, okay. Is this helping?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yesterday the board had a couple of items. The first was the Richards Ranch item. Are we still having a problem?
We can cope. It's okay. If we can't,
Okay.
if we don't understand, we'll tell you. Okay, it's fine.
So the first item was the Richards Ranch item, which was the determination of whether or not the application was complete. The applicants had appealed that to the board, and yesterday the board heard that item and ultimately deemed the application complete. So we are still looking at whether or not they forfeited their vesting because of the change, but it's looking like they've invoked the new builder's remedy law that went into effect recently that does allow some changes in square footage without that 20% cap. So we're looking into it further, and we can report back once we've determined whether or not there's been a forfeiture. If there has not been, what would happen is this application would move into what we call the consistency phase, and we would be telling them where their application is either consistent or inconsistent with the county's policies. The board then heard the workforce housing study that was prepared by Harris Consulting Group for the CFD. And the board, I think, received the report well. They're interested in moving forward on looking at some housing opportunities on the probation site in downtown Santa Barbara, and then also looking into what's possible on the current site where the engineering building is and the admin building on Anapamu and Anacapa. What the future potential is for that. Possibly selling the site to raise funds for other housing opportunities. And then they're also looking into how to generate local money for affordable housing, whether that's a second home tax or something along those lines. I think that's something they'll be studying. And then lastly, we have the work program. And I think I've mentioned that we can come back and give the PC a briefing on that work program. But essentially, the board identified some areas they'd like us to work on, in addition to those already mandated areas, which include, our safety element, our circulation element, housing element implementation, the new open space element that's required. But they had an interest in us working on farm worker housing. That was a high priority for them. They also expressed some interest in us working on updates to our CEQA thresholds, particularly the really outdated CEQA thresholds that relate to water and our water use thresholds. And so we expect that'll be a program that we would incorporate in future fiscal years. We don't have the capacity to do that in next fiscal year because we have so many obligations already. We've also moved forward the short-term rental idea, and that's going to be focused on in the next fiscal year, along with the other items that we're continuing to work on, like utility-scale solar. They expressed some interest in working on our code to update requirements for equestrian facilities, particularly in Ag 1 areas, and cleaning up our code around special events. So we have, I would say, our code is not as clear as it should be when it comes to special events, and it has created challenges historically for applicants and the department. So we're going to be working on that as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one too. Go ahead, Commissioner Park.
Well, I have two things to chuckle about. One, the annual work program you've described sounds more like a 3-year plan, but so be it. I also chuckle about the idea of the probation department and the engineering site as essentially builder's remedy projects by the County of Santa Barbara in the city of Santa Barbara. That'll give you something to talk about, maybe a conflict of interest of some sort, Commissioner Briley. But it's all very interesting. Will the workforce study plan come in front of us for any kind of a report? Or did we already have it and I forgot? I don't think I did.
No, it doesn't come to the PC. It's sort of outside the realm of PC's review. So I could ask CSD to come and give a presentation to the PC and see if they'd be willing to do that, if you're interested in that.
I am. I think that, yeah, I'm sure you're right. It's kind of outside of our jurisdiction to weigh in on it. On the other hand, in terms of providing background information for the Planning Commission on some of the things that will be in front of us and have been in front of us, like the housing element, it would be invaluable. Very well worth our time. And I don't,
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to them about it as a possibility.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then just quickly, there are a couple of things that are coming up at the board. We're going to have the artist tours are going forward on May 6th. That's a program you already heard. We have an IV rental housing inspection pilot program, and that goes straight to the board on May. I believe, Mr. Wilson, you have that date. Is it May? Are we still going on May 6th?
Madam Chair and Judge Plowman, that is correct, May 6th.
Okay. And then we are going to be taking forward the evacuation study to the board, and that's going to be going in June. We haven't selected a date yet for that. So I would, if you're interested in that, I would recommend tuning into that when and I'll give you a date next, as soon as we have one.
Director Plowman, I had one question on what had gone already. The short-term rental for next year and the Ag 1 and special events, is that going to be in the 26 work program? Is that what I caught?
I mean, we're going to do as much as we can. I think the board wanted us to start with farm worker housing. They kind of gave us priorities, and farm worker housing was the first. And they also would like to see us bring a general package forward of just cleanup items to the code. So if we can do more than 1 or 2 packages, we will move on to those other topics. If not, they will move into the next fiscal year.
Okay. So farm worker housing for current fiscal year 25, 26, and then anything else that you can include, and then otherwise 26, 27 for the Ag 1 and special event cleanup, right? Okay. Any other questions? And seeing none. Well, thank you. Glad you're back with us.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Now we come to the consent calendar.
We have one item. The following is a hearing on the request of Martin Wilder, agent for Laguna Sanitation District, Public Works Department, to consider case number 25 GOV2, application filed on March 5th, 2025, for determination that the county's disposal and LCSD's acquisition of easements for installation of 1.12 miles of recycled water pipeline on county-owned property conforms with the comprehensive plan of the County of Santa Barbara pursuant to California Government Code sections 65402B and 65402C. And Mr. Kringle is online.
So with the consent calendar items, I think we do Brown Act disclosures, and then we elect to hear from staff. Do we need to hear from staff, or do we, it's optional, correct? So are there any Brown Act disclosures on this item?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, before we move too much further, so being that it's on consent, the options are you can just take action on it as consent. If any of the commissioners want to ask questions of staff or the applicant, or you want to discuss it, then we need to pull it off consent. And then Mr. Villalobos already read it in the record. Once we pull it off consent, then we would follow the typical format of ex parte and then presentations.
Okay. So I think I'm looking for someone to keep it on consent and move for approval as submitted.
Well,
Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, it's in the 4th district. I would recommend we just keep it on the consent calendar.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second to keep it on consent calendar. No questions, nothing more.
Madam Chair, I don't think we needed an action to keep it on consent. The decision was, if you wanted to take it off, you could just do that without a motion.
All right.
But the action is to move staff's recommendations as presented in the, and then take a motion and an action on that.
Okay. Do you want to rephrase that?
Okay. I recommend we take staff's recommendations. We determine the proposed disposal of a non-exclusive agreement on APN 111-118 from the county to Laguna County Sanitation District conforms to the comprehensive plan, including the Orchid Community Plan. Second, we determine that the proposed disposal in fee of a portion of APN 111-118 from the county to Laguna County Sanitation District conforms with the comprehensive plan, including the Orchid Community Plan. And we transmit the conformity report required by California government, by Government Code Section 65402C to Martin Wilder Public Works and the Board of Supervisors. The memo dated April 9th, 2025, the attached memo from Martin Wilder, Attachment B, and the letter reflecting the Planning Commission's action shall constitute that required report.
Commissioner Cooney?
Treating that as a motion by my colleague, I will second the motion.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 There we go. Thank you, Mr. Wilder, for tuning in. Okay.
He's in the back.
So with that, we move on to our other item on the agenda, our item number 1 on the standard agenda. Mr. Villalobos, do you want to read that into the record?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request to consider case numbers 21 CUP 15 as well as 21 DVP 20, and of course, adoption of the mitigated negative declaration, case number 24 NGD 6, and the mitigation monitoring program.
Thank you. And for this item, we begin with our Brown Act disclosures. Does anybody have any ex parte communications they want to disclose? No. Commissioner Park.
Yes, I attended a site visit earlier this week with Commissioner Reed, and Mr. and Mrs. Phelan and Mr. Simmons and Mr. Griffin were there as well.
Okay. Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, I had a conversation with Mr. Simmons late last week, as well as going to the site visit on this Monday, on the 7th.
Very good. Commissioner Cooney, did you have anything?
I just would disclose that I had a call from Mr. Simmons. We did not discuss the project, but he merely said he was available to do so if I chose.
Okay, and I also had a telephone conference with Mr. Simmons on Friday regarding what was in the staff report and if I had any questions, and that's it. Okay, so with that, we move on to our staff presentation. Another Ethosphere appearance.
So good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This morning, Jacqueline Ibarra is going to be giving the presentation remotely.
Yes, hello from the Ethernet, everybody. So I understand there's a little bit of tech issues in the hearing room. So I've shared my screen that has staff's presentation up. Let me know if there's anything or any issues with that. And I will start if everyone's ready.
Sounds
Okay,
good. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I will say it's nice to be before the commission today with something other than an oil and gas project. So this will be fun.
Yes.
Today, the commission is considering the Rancho Luis Equestrian Facility and Development Plan project. I'm the case planner, Jacqueline Ibarra, and Deputy Director Aaron Briggs is in the hearing room. And you'll also be hearing from the applicant, Mr. James Phelan, and his team following staff's presentation. The request is on behalf of the applicant to approve, 1, a conditional use permit for the operation of a commercial animal boarding and equestrian training facility, including limited special events. 2, a development plan for 9,280 square feet of new structures, which would total 37,541 square feet of total development on the site. And 3, adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and its associated monitoring program. This slide shows the project location. It's outlined in red on the figure. It's located at 826 Ballard Canyon Road, which is in the San Ynez Valley between Buellton and Solvang. It's a 25.1 acre parcel zoned Ag 120, and it's in Commissioner Park 3rd District. Some background on the site: it's a single family rural ranch property, which has had historic commercial animal boarding and equestrian training on the site. There's about 28,000 square feet of existing development, including those items listed here. Back in February of 2020, there was a zoning violation complaint of unpermitted equestrian training events confirmed by our compliance division. So the site does have an active enforcement case, and resolution of that would be through a currently approved abatement schedule and the conditional use permit request before you. The applicant submitted applications to P&D in April of 2021, the CUP for animal boarding, training, and special events, and the development plan for the proposed structures. Applications were complete in March of 2020. There are a few development plan revisions through August of last year, and an environmental review on the whole project was complete in September. Okay, getting into the project description. So under the requested conditional use permit, there would be animal boarding, equestrian training, and limited special events. For animal boarding, it would be a maximum of 54 animals on site, boarded in stalls, paddocks, and pastures. There would be an on-site stable manager, 2 staffs, and an equestrian trainer during operational hours. And other routine activities would also include horseshoeing, supply deliveries, and veterinary checkups. For training events, the applicant would operate 2 existing riding arenas that are already on site. Those would operate Monday through Sunday, with approximately 2 to 5 training events occurring per day on the weekdays and 4 to 6 training events occurring per day on the weekends. No lighting, sound, or music is proposed. And there would be 31 dedicated parking spots for cars and animal trailers. Finally, for special events, there would also be writing clinics, educational and charitable events happening up to 4 times a year. And those would be limited to 10 horses and 25 guests. Under the requested development plans, 7 new structures would be built, and those would be built over approximately 10 years, including 5 barns, a guest house conversion, and an agricultural employee unit. The applicant would also extend the driveway that exists along the southern portion of the boundary and would build additional paddocks and shade structures for the animals. 3 currently unpermitted structures would also be validated, including storage containers and an animal shed. And road widening would also occur on a private access road that accesses the upper portion of the site and neighboring properties. That would be widened to 20 feet in applicable places per a fire department approved access plan. Okay, the slide shows the equestrian operations plan on the left and the development plan on the right. These encompass the overarching project elements, but there are more detailed plans in your staff report. Those include circulation plans, landscape plans, all the architectural designs, etc. And I know the applicant will go into more of those detailed plans in their presentation. But for these overall ones in the equestrian operations plan, the various pastures, paddocks, stables, and parking are all shown color-coded on the figure. And on the development plan, all the new structures, converted structures, and proposed driveway extension is also shown color-coded. The other figure I wanted to highlight is the proposed road access plan. This is for the private road off Ballard Canyon. It shows in detail where road widening would occur and where it wouldn't due to existing constraints. So where road widening wouldn't occur is shown in these red spaces along. There is an aerial map here. This shows you all the different segments, and then the figures on the right show you the little subsects of the road widening plan. This slide highlights the Board of Architectural Review as well as Environmental Review under CEQA. So the CBAR held various conceptual reviews of the project from 2022 through 2023. Those reviews included site visits, the applicant erected story poles, CBAR did conceptual policy reviews, and at the last meeting, CBAR did clear the project to come back for preliminary and final review. For environmental review, we prepared an initial study, which turned into a mitigated negative declaration, as significant but mitigable impacts would occur to air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, fire protection, geological processes, noise, and water resources. The MND was circulated for public review from July until August of last year, and mitigation measures were finalized, including the ones listed below for construction of the development plan and operation of the conditional use permit. We also completed a comprehensive consistency analysis, including an analysis of the project under the comprehensive plan and the San Ynez Valley Community Plan and LUDC. Staff determined that the project meets consistency for all the standards and goals outlined below, which include adequate services, compatible design, development standards, etc. And then we also wanted to note that in addition to the CEQA mitigation measures, we also applied project-specific conditions of approval to ensure consistency with county code, including requirements for utility service letters, stormwater control plan, landscape performance bonds, a sewer system evaluation, proof of ag employment for the proposed dwelling unit, as well as standard development fees. Therefore, staff recommends that your Planning Commission, 1, make the required findings for approval as outlined in Attachment A to your staff report. 2, adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program outlined in Attachments C and B. Approve the conditional use permit subject to the conditions of approval outlined in Attachment B1. And approve the development plan, also subject to the conditions outlined in Attachment B2. That concludes staff presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ibarra. Let's have some questions. Commissioner Park?
Yes, I have a lot of things I think will be interesting to bring out, but I think they'll come out in the various presentations and deliberations. But I have a very specific question. It seems that in the few letters of opposition concern the road access to the upper area, and I looked at the road access plan last night, and you just had it up on the screen, and I could see it's kind of the trickiest question here. Could you explain the fire department and Public Works review and approvals or whatever they gave on this? It looked like it's approved, or you wouldn't brought it if it wasn't approved by the subdivision review committee. But in looking at the fire letter, it looked like it was dated in 2021, and it predated the proposal, I think, on what would be widened and what wouldn't. So I just wondered how that all worked out. If you could address that, thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Park, through the chair. So this project has been going on for a couple of years. So it went to SDRC twice, the first in 2021, the second, I believe, in 2022. The fire department and the transportation division reviewed the project both times. For the fire department's comments, initially, they said that they would have conditions on the development plan, including requirements for road widening. The fire department then communicated and coordinated with the applicant to prepare that access plan. And they submitted that, coordinated it between themselves. Fire department approved it and forwarded it to P&D. And the project description from what the fire department reviewed initially didn't change in any significant way that would make them have to review that road widening access plan. What they're proposing is the same for the road constraints and where they're going to widen it and where they won't. For transportation division, they also reviewed the project both times at SDRC. They reviewed the trip generation report and had no comments or conditions on the project.
But so County Fire has approved the road widening as proposed.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One, I'll just add on to the road widening questions. I noticed in one of the, well, we only got, I think, 2 very minimal complaint letters with respect to it, but one of them, the writer complains that they may have to change their address, and I noticed there's a requirement apparently that the road name be changed. Is that due to the fact the fire department likes a unique name on each road to make it easier to locate, or what's the basis for that?
Yeah, Commissioner Reed, through the chair. So that road is a private road. It's not a county or state road. And so right now it's identified as basically an extension of Ballard Canyon Road, which is a county road. And so per the fire department's conditions, the applicant would have to apply for a specific road name. So that's a specific permit. They may choose Ballard Canyon Road. Again, I'm not sure if they can or not. I'll defer that question to Deputy Briggs. But yes, they will have to apply for a road name. If it's changed, then the neighbors may have to update their addresses depending on the new road, official road name.
Okay, well, I just noticed that when I was trying to find it, first time I'd ever been there, all the numerous extensions of Ballard Canyon Road made it a little bit confusing. But second item, it's noted that one of the notice of violation you're dealing with was dated 2020, although it's very well established that property had been used for horse boarding and training for decades. So with respect to that complaint that generated the notice, was that a new neighbor or someone, some sort of a change, even though it appeared nothing different was occurring than it had historically been going on there, for many, many years?
Yeah, Commissioner Reed, through the chair. I'm not sure the basis of the complaint. I know that it was received through our compliance department. So, we did a comprehensive investigation of that. I know Mr. Briggs, Deputy Director Aaron Briggs, was overseeing that at the time. So maybe he has more comments to weigh in on the background of that.
Okay. So just after decades and decades of prior use, some complaint emerged. Okay. That's what, okay. Second item. For my own edification, I see all kinds of C-train containers all over the county, everywhere. Do they all require permits, or is there something unique about these?
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner Reed, if a C-train container is greater than 120 square feet in size, it requires a permit.
So same as any other structure?
Yeah, we treat it as a structure. If it were less than 120 square feet, it could be considered exempt. However, there are other triggers, such as the addition of utilities, for example, would also then require a permit, even if it were less than 120 square feet. So each circumstance is a little bit different depending on what we find, but generally speaking, a C-train container requires a permit.
Okay, and that little dinky goat shed, just because it had that little awning added to it, that pushed it over the line, so suddenly it needs a permit. Is that?
I'm not familiar with the goat shed specifically. Typically, a structure that is a shade structure with no walls would typically be exempt, but there must be something about it that's kicking it into a permit. I mean, given the nature of the project, whether or not the goat shed is exempt or not doesn't really matter. It's going to be incorporated into this development plan and be permitted.
Yeah, because I looked at those violations on the containers and the goat shed, thought they were pretty, well, I would say nitpicking, for lack of a better term. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a couple questions. One was, so this violation was in 2020, and then the application had a 21 start date, and it's just taken the regular process to get here, right? There was no lag or any kind of confusion in how to process this, right? That's a question to...
Sure. Chair Bridley. Yes, it's just taken a long time, not any of the applicant's fault. They've been great at submitting things on time. I would say what has taken the most time is they went to CBAR for conceptual review, I think 5 times. And each time CBAR requested that they make some project changes to the site structures, location, et cetera. So it took time for their engineers to come up with different plans, return to CBAR, et cetera.
Okay. And then which is one question, and maybe the applicant will cover this, but no, actually, this is a question for you, Ms. Vara. On your issue summary, you talked about commercial animal boarding and equestrian training ceased pending the approval of the requested CUP. And I thought that the way the county normally works with applicants is if you're doing something but you're seeking remedy through a permit, you're allowed to continue those things. Was that something that the applicant chose to do, or?
So, Madam Chair, I can address that. So, generally speaking, and there may be some limited exceptions, but generally speaking, if we have an unpermitted structure and the property owner would like to come in and get a permit, the violation is basically placed in suspension while they obtain a permit. And certainly we don't expect somebody to deconstruct a garage or whatever it happens to be in order to get a permit only to reconstruct it again, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the basis there. When we have an unpermitted use and the applicant would like to seek a permit for that use, we require the property owner to cease the use until they obtain a permit.
Okay, that helps. Okay, and one other question was on the large animal boarding operation. So it's going to follow through in the project description. There's a statement that there's going to be 54 animals, but then further down on that paragraph, it's a maximum of 10 clients, and their animals would be allowed to board in the upper ranch. I'm just confusing about 54 animals on both parts of the ranch. The math didn't seem like it matched up. And maybe if you want the applicant to explain that, that's fine. Just
Yeah, sure, Chair
looking at the
Brightly.
paragraph.
Yeah,
Go
I know
ahead.
the applicant's stable manager is with them today, so they can talk about the overall operations plan. But yes, there would be a maximum of 54 animals, 10 clients being able to access the upper portion of the ranch, and 10 clients being able to access the lower portion of the ranch. And obviously, the math would work out that clients would have more than one animal, and also
Okay.
the property owner has their own animals, which factor into that equation.
Oh, good. I hadn't thought of that. Okay. I think that's it for my questions. Thank you very much. Great report, by the way. Okay, well, with that.
I just have
Oh,
one
yeah.
question.
Sorry, Commissioner Martinez.
Yes, and my question focuses on the report regarding the drainage. There's 2,100 excess cut cubic yards, and I see the grading, the schematic grading within your exhibit, within your attachment E, but my question originates then is this changing the drainage of the water with the spreading out of this 2,000 square feet, or is that something better for the applicant to address?
Yeah, Commissioner Martinez, through the chair, I can address that a little bit. So they will be constructing those 7 structures on site. The site is 24 acres, so over the overall site-wide, there would be minimal drainage pattern alterations, but they are considering that in their design of their stormwater management plan. They're adding in drainages and stormwater detention areas to limit the amount of drainage patterns that, would change due to the proposed development.
So it is changing the drainage pattern of the water? A little bit, at least.
Yeah, I would say it could a little bit, but overall site-wide, it would be very minimal, and I don't think would make a difference over the 25-acre site as a whole.
Okay, I'm just wondering if it would affect the neighbors, and that's what I want to make sure about.
Oh, got it.
Okay. I'm thinking maybe the applicant addressed that better than what I've just heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions for staff that the commission has. We move to the applicant's presentation.
Okay, give me
Jacqueline's gonna
one
bring up-
second while I pull it up. Do 1 sec, please.
Good. And just to forewarn you, I may have you go back and forth on a couple slides, just.
Sure. Okay, getting ready to share. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Chair Bridley, members of the Planning Commission, I want to thank staff for their help and hard work on this project and getting this before you for your review and approval today. I appreciate the commission's taking time out of your busy schedules to be here today and all the work and help to shape the future of Santa Barbara County. My name is Pete Simmons with Urban Planning Concepts. I represent the Phelan's and the Rancho Lewis Equestrian Facility that is before you today for the approval of the conditional use permit 21 CUP 0015 and the development plan 21 DVP 0020. With me here today is James and Shauna Phelan, the owners of the Ranchos Lewis, as well as along with the Equestrian Facilities Operation Manager Bruce Griffin. We also have CJ Hortzman of HBA Group, the architect, and Robert Schmidt with Flowers and Associates, with the engineer, to help answer any architectural engineering questions related to the project that you have today, and they're both online from my understanding. But before I proceed on my presentation, I just wanted to have James to give him an opportunity to provide a couple words.
Thank you for the opportunity to come in front of you today. I apologize if I ramble. I get a little nervous public speaking, and you just told me I was on TV, so it makes it much worse. Just to give you a little background about us, I grew up in Orcutt. I went to Rigetti High School, and so I've been around for a while. I did leave to go off to college. I was in the Marines for a number of years, but when it was time to raise my family, this was the place we wanted to be. So we're back up here, and I've got my kids. I got two of them who are at San Ynez High School, and that's a little bit challenging because I don't know who to root for when they're playing against Rigetti, but they get a little mad at me because I think I cheer for the wrong team half the time. But I've been a member of this community for a very long time, and we feel like we're very privileged to have this property. And this is a boarding facility. We didn't develop all these stables and riding arenas. It was done by prior owners. But when we acquired the property, we looked at it and said, this has been part of the community for years. We want it to continue to be part of the community. So we look at Rancho Luis as not just an isolated ranch. It's not just a home for us in the hills, but it's part of our community. And so our boarding operations are really just local members of the community. It's friends of ours. My barber, Carlos Cantera, has his horse there. It's not open to large-scale public events. It's not open for people to call and rent a horse to go for a ride. It's just people who live in Santa Barbara County that need a place to keep a horse, and I don't need all the stables. So I think it's kind of a win-win proposition, and we kind of designed the whole plan to keep it fairly limited ourselves to 54 horses and other large animals, including our own, 10 borders above, 10 borders below, to kind of spread out the access. And we want to continue to be members of our community, and we want to make our community a better place. So that's what Rancho Luis is all about. So I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to turn it over to an expert, but I'm happy to answer any questions later. Thank you all for your time.
Go ahead, next slide. Again, I appreciate the commission and staff's time on this project and look forward to answering any questions that you may have after my presentation. As mentioned by staff, what is before you today is a conditional use permit and development plan for Rancho Luis Equestrian Facility. The CUP, as staff had mentioned, the CUP is being processed to address the notice of violation for the existing unpermitted commercial equestrian facility on the property. The CUP will also help permit the two existing unpermitted structures, which is the 289 square foot goat shed, answering your question about being over the 120, and the two 320 square foot storage containers that are being used for the existing ranch operations. Go ahead to the next slide. The development plan is being processed because the project exceeds the 20,000 square foot of gross floor area per section 3521030 C1B of the Santa Barbara County Land Use Code. The existing development, go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. The existing development exists of the 23,500 square foot existing structures, which you can see on this screen here in green, buildings A through I. The 929 square foot, which is to be permitted with the CUP, are buildings P and Z, which are in yellow, which are, I don't have us, but I don't know if you can see them. But anyhow, they're the ones that are in yellow, and I think you have all commission packets as well. Thank you, sir. Whoop. Just doesn't mean just doesn't pick up on your screen. All right, that's all right. But anyhow, and then we have 3,832 square feet of planned structures. If you want to go to the next slide real quick. Oh, actually, sorry, go back. Sorry, go back. 3,832 of plan exempt structures, which are buildings J, K, L, M, N, O, Q, which are all the blue structures that are on that plan as well. And then as part of the future development, we're looking at adding in about 9,280 square feet, which will consist of 5 new structures, a barn conversion, and 7 planning exempt shade structures, which will be part of the future paddocks that they're adding into the facility, which when everything's said and total and done, will be a total of 37,451 square feet of development. All but 3 of the structures have been permitted on the property over the past 48 years. Go ahead to the next slide real quick. All right. To provide some history, the property started to develop in 1977 when a single-family home was permitted at the Upper Ranch. Then between 1988 and 91, 2 pole barns, stables, a pool, and cabana were permitted at and built on the Upper Ranch. As you can kind of see in the pictures in 94, you can kind of see the aerial, you can kind of see the buildings of the Upper Ranch. It was not until 1997 that the Lower Ranch started to be developed with the installation of the permitted 6,000 square foot barn, and then in 98 they added the employee dwelling and the stables, which you can see in the 2002 aerial. You can see the development that's occurred along Ballard Canyon Road. Then between 2002 and 2024, a tennis court, storage containers, and a goat shed were added to the Upper Ranch. Since 2009, the ranch has remained relatively the same. Go on to the next slide. Continue forward. Another one. Next slide. Thanks. Okay. Again, the proposed new development is planned to be constructed over the next 10 years on a needed basis. And the buildings in red are all the buildings that they're looking to propose in the actual new development. The 630 square foot, let's see, the proposed new buildings will be for the existing equestrian facility and vineyard. All but one will be built on the Upper Ranch, and that's the building T, the 636 square foot building that you can see down there by Ballard Canyon Road, right adjacent to the covered arena. That will be located against the arena. The building will be set back. Go to the next slide real quick. The building will be set back from the minimum 100-foot setback from the top of bank from Thumbelina Creek, which is part of the mitigation measure to kind of help any future ground disturbances or vegetations within that habitat setback area. Also, the new access road that meets the county. Can you go back to the previous slide real quick, Jacqueline? A new access road that meets county fire standards is also being added along the western or the southern property line that will take access down to building S in that corner. That's a new access road that they're adding in. The parking along with the trailer area, parking along with trailer turning areas will be included in both the upper and lower ranches. And the proposed parking that's being proposed for the Upper Ranch is 13 standard spaces with 7 trailer spaces, and the Lower Ranch is 9 standard spaces with 2 trailer spaces. The Upper Ranch will be accessed by 826 Ballard Canyon Road via the private road, and the Lower Ranch will be accessed at 648 Ballard Canyon Road. Both access points can be used by boarders and employees, but the primary access for boarders would be the Lower Ranch at 648, and then the Upper Ranch would be for employees and deliveries. But again, both accesses can be used by the boarders and employees and whatnot. Let's see, go ahead to the next slide. Keep going, another one. All right, thank you. The Upper Ranch will be accessed by the applicant. The applicant has worked with the adjacent neighbor and county fire to obtain approval on the proposed access plan that would look to widen the existing private road that meet Santa Barbara County standards requirements needed for access to the equestrian facility and for development of the home on APN 137-120-034. The access road is planned to be expanded along most of the length, but due to topography and close proximity with some of the existing mature trees would prevent the widening in some of those areas, which Santa Barbara County has reviewed and approved. Go to the next slide. Okay. The existing horse facility operations consist of 16 stalls, 17 paddocks, 7 pastures, a 6,000 square foot covered arena, and an 18,000 square foot uncovered arena. An additional 8 paddocks, 2 pastures, and the upper pastures and the upper arena will be expanded to 20,000 square feet, which will be which will add it to the facility as discussed above. Per discussions with the owner and past employees that worked on the ranch from 1996 to 2016, horses have been boarded on this property by prior owners. The previous owners had from 10 to 37 horses that were boarded at the site at any one time. One of the past employees, Nacho Mendoza, who was familiar with Rancho Lewis, mentioned that the current boarding is less intense than the previous owners. The applicant has requested the ability to hold 4 special events a year at the lower arena, which will consist of a maximum of 10 horses and 25 guests. The events will be for public riding clinics, educational, and charitable equestrian events. No amplified sound or music is proposed during the special events or during the operations of the boarding and training operations. Based on traffic counts reviewed by Orzo Engineering as part of the mitigated negative declaration, the traffic generated at the equestrian facility will be a maximum of 50 trips per day, which is less than the county's search screening criteria of 110 or fewer average daily trips, and so that the vehicle miles traveled impacts would be insignificant. The proposed, go on to the next slide, Jacqueline. Okay. The proposed buildings received, as you'd mentioned, received conceptual approval at CBAR on November 3rd of 23, and now we can proceed forward to the preliminary and final CBAR approvals once approved by the PC. And I'll just have you go through these slides. I'll just tell you next slide. As you can see, the proposed architecture, color, and materials of the new buildings will blend in with the existing building on site by incorporating vertical siding and standing seam metal roofs, as well as add to the color that you see on a lot of the different buildings that are on site now. Any lighting on the new structures will be fully shielded and dark sky compliant per San Ynez Valley Community Plan. There's no artificial lighting proposed at either the arena during special events or during the boarding and training operations associated with the equestrian facility. The proposed project is consistent with the municipal code, and mitigation measures have been incorporated into the conditions of approval to bring those potentially significant environmental impacts identified in the mitigated negative deck to a less than significant impact level. Mr. Phelan has agreed to the conditions of approval. We look forward to resolving the notice of violation. We appreciate your time reviewing this project and would request the Planning Commission approve the requested CUP and development plan for Rancho Lewis Equestrian Facility. We are here to answer any questions that you may have on the project. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Do we have any questions from the commission? Commissioner Martinez?
Yeah, I'm still looking for how the flow of water is occurring. I'm trying to tell from this grading map, and I think it's flowing towards the upper ranch. Is it flowing right now, or am I wrong?
No, right now the upper ranch is higher than the lower ranch.
Okay.
So basically the property kind of, the topography goes down towards.
Why don't you bring up your first slide and you can just point it out for me? I'm just trying to understand this.
Okay, give me one
You can
second.
bring up the
Let me
side
share
plan.
again.
Yep, you're good.
Yep.
Yep.
Your very first one.
This one?
That should work. That'll work.
Okay.
Basically, the property drains basically from, I guess that would be east to west. So basically down towards the Ballard Canyon Road, towards the lower ranch. There's a very dramatic change in elevation between the two. And so that's kind of where everything goes. And right now, because of the development, most of the development that we're doing is up on the upper ranch. And then we have the one building that we have down by the lower arena. So as far as drainage goes and because I know you had the question about that, the additional was the 2,000 cubic yards that were going to be left over once we do all the cut for the building X and some of the other buildings that we're having to do. But the idea is to take that excess cubic yards and use that to kind of fan it out to throughout the different parts of the development, because you have not only the pastures, they also have a vineyard operation that they go on, which is a personal vineyard. So that soil will be used for that operation as well. So as far as changing the drainage patterns, it will be minimal, if anything, and it wouldn't impact anybody around the adjacent neighbors at all.
Okay, so it's going away from the vineyards.
Correct.
It's going towards Ballard. Road.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And that's an interesting thing too. I know Mr. Roy Reed, when you'd asked about, the road name changing, because that was a concern from Renee Solnit for that private road. And like you had mentioned, when you go out there, it's kind of difficult to drive around because everything's named Ballard Canyon Road. So I think that's one of the reasons, again, why the fire department, because they're having to do these improvements, want a physical name for that kind of private road there, so which will definitely help for emergency access, as well as it'll help improve that road to help additional emergency access for the neighbors within the neighborhood.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Reed.
Oh, good. Hey, I think this is one example where I think the site visit was really important and helped me separate what my impressions were from just looking at your plans. And even though I see all the elevation lines on your plans, it really, being there actually really demonstrated there's an oak woodland basically separating upper from lower. And when I looked at the grading plan, and the layout of the structures and where that's going to occur on the upper ranch, I didn't really have any worries or concerns about if that would traverse and go down to the lower. The one question I did have, though, is with relation to Thumbelina Creek. But this new proposal, the only thing being constructed down there is that little storage.
Yeah, is that
Vineyard storage barn.
the 603 square foot storage building right there adjacent to the lower arena.
And we saw the corner poles, so it's very insignificant. So is there anything with respect to grading there that would modify any of the drainage to Thumbelina
we're
Creek?
just, for that, all we're doing is just the pad for that one building, and that's it. And part of the mitigation is to have a habitat setback from Thumbelina Creek, which is 100 feet, and so we're outside of it. We moved that building. It was slightly in. I had to move it out to keep it out of there. So nothing that we're proposing in the lower arena would affect or create any drainage issues.
And then the planned events for that lower arena, they seem to be only 4 a year, of very modest size, with adequate parking to accommodate everything.
Yeah, we do.
And again, just to reiterate, no music, no lighting, no amplified sound.
Correct.
Which are, as we saw with the AEO, probably the 3 most common complaints from neighbors. So
there'll be none of that for when they do any of the events down below.
Okay, and just one other question. This guest house on the top, the guest house, what's the intended use for that guest house?
Well, maybe I'll have to ask James about that one. I think actually the guest house is, I think for, again, for friends and family that visit from time to time. And I think we mentioned that when on the site walk. Yeah.
His parents, not
Correct,
a commercial venture.
Yeah, because I know his mom's living with him now, and so
Right.
that'll give an opportunity for him to have a place for her to stay while she's
Great.
there.
Thank you.
I had one question, and maybe, well, first of all, thank you, team, for giving us the 11 by 17 foldouts, because that was very helpful. On your slide 15, the fire access roadway proposal, I'm fundamentally confused with where that is on your overall site plan. Can you explain those 3 sections, maybe in relation to your slide?
So basically, that private road, if you look at the upper ranch, if you want to
Can we
bring
get
up
an
the-
exhibit up?
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe the horse facility operation
Yeah,
map.
the one that you just had up, Jacqueline, if you still have it up.
Yep, I'll find it. Let's see. Give it 1 minute. It has a little lag.
I think it's slide 6.
Right there, okay.
Sorry. Wait, no, not 6.
So-
Chair Bridley, 9.
Okay. So go back to the other slide real quick. The facility one.
The facility operation plan.
Yeah. So Ballard 826 Ballard Canyon is this bulb right here. So this is that private road that goes out to the other extension of Ballard Canyon. And so as part of that, Mr. Phelan at the time was working with an adjacent landowner who was looking at building a home on his property. And part of the requirements was to improve that roadway. So knowing that James and him were kind of working together, they kind of came together and worked with the fire department to get that access plan approved.
Okay, all right, that helps clarify it. I knew it was in there somewhere. All right, thank you. So one other question, and you can probably answer it. You talked about that there were a couple structures that were planning exempt, but they're rolled into this development plan. I'm wondering why. If they're planning exempt, why are they in a DP? Maybe that's a staff question.
So, Madam Chair, the intent of the development plan is really to cover all structural development at the parcel, right? And they have, 37,000-ish square feet. So the intent of that discretionary permit is to cover all the development at the site, regardless of its exempt nature or permitted nature.
Okay, so as long as they're in the process, you're going to roll it into the DP. Otherwise, it might be a one-off exempt.
Correct.
Okay.
And in essence, that really does provide some value to the property owner as well, because now they've gone through this formal process to obtain a permit. We have stamped plans that have been approved showing the locations of all of these structures, and if there ever becomes a question in the future whether or not something is permitted or requires a permit, they can point back to this approval and show that it's been covered.
Yeah, okay. Probably for your insurance companies, too. Okay, I didn't have any other questions, so with that, not seeing any others from the commission, do we want to start with public comment? I think so. Right now, I think I have a total of 7 speaker slips. Is there anyone else online? 2, okay, so 1, 2. So let's start with, I'll announce your name, please state your name and for the record when you begin to speak, and everybody will have 3 minutes. And I'm going to do these in couplets of 2, so the first person and the next person know their next step. So we begin with Tracy Hughes. Is there a Tracy Hughes? Yeah, it's where it landed.
My name is Tracy Hughes. I used to board at James and Shauna's boarding facility in Santa Ynez. I no longer board there because I moved up to Santa Maria and I came back. When I was boarding there, all I can say is that when you went into the facility, it was always clean. The horses were always well taken care of. And also, if ever I had a question about my horse, I could also always go to the manager, Bruce. He would always help me with my horse. There are a couple of instructors there, Western and English. So that was good for the community. We had really everything you could want in a facility was there. I can only say that since I left, the place I'm at now doesn't even compare to the one that James has. And also, just that there was a camaraderie there. It's like a family. You went there. James was always on the property. Sean was on the property, always asking, hey, is there anything we can do? They did James had a trail around the entire facility that we could go. We could train with our horses. We could go one way, the other way, up and down, over the hills and around. And it was just fun. It was a lot of fun. And it was great to be there. And I have no skin in the game now because I'm not there. I just want to come here to support James and Shauna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Bruce Griffin. So I've seen it published many times, but Mr. Bruce, to be followed by Daniel Walker.
Yeah, Bruce Griffin and Bruce Griffin are very well confused most of the time. So my name is Bruce Griffin, and I operate the facility at Rancho Luis. And my position is that I try to make the place as safe and comfortable as possible. You know, you look at these facilities and we try to make where when people come there, they come there to learn and enjoy themselves. And we don't try to impose on the neighbors like we have heard in the past, because that's the biggest complaint I think we should really address. The neighbors, this thing hasn't changed in the last 5 years. From today back 5 years, it's the same. The impact on the road, the noise, the dust, you know, those things have never changed. And if you address those issues, the road use, you count the number of people that come in and out of that property on a daily basis, is between the maximum 3 to 5, okay? And 5 is probably on a Saturday or something like that. The dust, there's no controlling the dust in that area because of the fact that the wind blows from the west to the east most of the time. So when the complaint about the dust in there, can't help it, that's nature's. The noise, we have a very mature group of people who come to the ranch, and most of them are probably the ages. The youngest would be like in adults, maybe 40, 45, and up. So it's not like a bunch of youngsters out there having parties. Music, no noise, and none of that stuff. So if you have any complaints about that, it's unfounded. The complaint about having a lot of traffic congestion in there, you know, there's never going to be an event that would be held at that would impose on the neighbors. And I think they have to really look at what they're complaining about is that, of course, I don't like a lot of things in life, but that doesn't give me the right to impose my feelings on someone's wishes. And that's what I think in this case is being done. Because there's no way that this ranch has impacted that anybody's property at all. And if it is impacted, I think if you know James Phelan, he's willing to address it. And I think as a neighbor, if you were going to buy a neighbor, I would buy one of him 100 times over. And I'm not just trying to put a feather in his cap, because what he's done for that community there and willing to do for that community, especially like when you saw about that road expansion, if you check it out, he's willing to do it at his expense.
Thank you. Your time's up. So yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we move on to Daniel Walker, to be followed by James Wooden. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners and county staff. My name is Dan Walker. I have been a resident in Santa Barbara County for decades. I have now returned to equestrian activity. I am here to make some verbal statements in support of and on behalf of the Phelans. I did submit a letter that I believe you all received it in time. So I will just touch over some points. There's been statements here today which really indicate that this project can be deemed very favorable by the presenters and by members of the commission. We can understand that drainage is not going to be really a problem because of the engineering, but the topography of the land. And that was formed as the San Ynez Valley was formed. The Phelans are an admirable couple. Their statements by county staff, shown that they have been cooperative and willing to modify their plans. And I cannot overemphasize that they want to mitigate what might be a perceived safety problem or could be a safety problem by widening the road. And it has been stated here that the fire department has approved that. And I think that should be duly noted. I want to talk about something personal, and that is having an equestrian facility which is open and available. It's not overly expensive. 5 years ago, to the month, I attended the Horse Sense and Healing Program at the Flag Is Up Farms, went with a Navy buddy of mine. It saved my life. It allowed me to get back involved with equestrian activities, and I could pursue horsemanship. They are offering a facility like this. They are very rare now in Santa Barbara County. Not overly expensive. You don't have to commit to shows, all this type of pressure. We are a community here, and it is a boon to the community. James has made a point that this is very important, and it is, and it follows our legacy in the rural, rustic life of Santa Barbara County, which was once the epicenter of the vaquero world. Let's continue that, please. So I urge you to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Wooden, to be followed by Mike Sandoval. Correct me.
Thank you for your time. My name is Doug Wooden, and my tenure in the Valley precedes stoplights. And so discussions of traffic have come and gone over the years. I'm also a builder. I've been a licensed general contractor since 1987, and I've been involved in hundreds of projects in San Ynez Valley, ranches, custom homes. I've seen poor properties developed into magnificent properties. I've seen excellent properties with gobs of money thrown at them, completely ruined. And all I can say about this particular project, and by the way, full disclosure, James is a good friend of mine. I'm intimately familiar with that property. I've been crawling around it for 10 years, helping him sort things out and brainstorming with him about different ideas on that project. So I am vested in it as a friend. And that property is particularly well suited for the type of development he's doing. It pre-existed. The rough structure of it was there. And along the way, it fell into a certain amount of disrepair. And all he's really doing on that property is connecting all the dots and bringing that thing up to where it belongs. When I say where it belongs, I'm referring to what Dan just talked about, this tradition in the valley that is very strong. It was built by ranchers, cowboys, farmers, teachers, and builders. And it's a vestige of those times. And if there's not an interface for children and adults to come to where they can actually lay their hands on those traditions, we're going to lose it. He's a philanthropic person, and he wants to give this to the community. And it did exist already, as we know. And so he's just trying to polish this thing up and bring it all the way to fruition. And occasionally when this happens, in my experience, as I said, I've been doing this in that valley for a long time. Unfortunately, you get a lot of rocks being thrown by people in glass houses. That's just the nature of things. And I hope you guys can see past that and see the open and pure transparency of trying to do it right and go through the process and present you with all the information you need to get this thing up to where it is a complete net gain for the community, for himself, and for his neighbors, really. And some of the neighbors, unfortunately, can't see that actually they're going to benefit from a lot of the things he's doing. Improved fire access, improved fire control, and just an overall uplifting of the community by the people that are living there now. So that's
Thank you.
That's mine.
Okay, we continue on to Mike Sandoval, to be followed by Aaron Farley, I think. Mr. Sandoval.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Sandoval, and my family has been part of this community for over 70-plus years. My mother was a horse cutting trainer and ran a horse cutting operation on our small ranch in San Ynez. My father, Ray Sandoval, was a very well-known artisan bit and spur, horse bit and spur maker. So over the last 50 years, I have seen the heart and soul of this community go through my dad's workshop, making custom spurs, and my mother training world-class cutting horses. Since my parents passed away, I now have a fully licensed, bonded, compliant winery and vineyard on my property. I produce about 400 to 500 cases of wine a year. I sell to my fan base. And it's important that I say that, you know, it's hard to make a living in this community either with horses and or with wine. And as you probably all know, the wine industry has been taking a pretty bad hit recently. And I'll say that, you know, with the way things are going, I think there are going to be a lot of people day drinking again. Having said that, I've known the Phalens for 10 plus years now, and I can tell you that James Phelan, I think his morning mantra is do the right thing. And he's only, as I will reiterate or follow up from my previous speaker, he's just trying to make this old decrepit ranch back into a beautiful working ranch again. The vines on the property were completely derelict, And he has taken local employees and people, and he's turned that ranch back into a thriving vineyard now. He's built a beautiful home on the ranch, not a white elephant, not 100 condominiums. He's built a beautiful ranch house on this property. And I urge you and plead with you to do the right thing and let the man take this beautiful piece of property and turn it back into something right again in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Aaron Farley, I think. It's followed by Juan Rubio, I believe.
Good morning, and thank you for your time. My name is Aaron Farley. I'm the assistant winemaker at Rancho Luis. I've been familiar with the property since I moved to the Valley in 2016, so predates the Feelings taking over the property. I can't say much more than what Mike Sandoval has already said. I agree with that, with what he said 100%. Aren't too many people that I've met in my life that I have more respect for than James and Shauna Phelan. They've done a wonderful thing with the project. We have about an acre, maybe 1.1 acres of grapes on the property. The main part of the property sits up on a hill. The bottom part is roughly 140 feet below, so all of the drainage really runs away from the other parts of the upper hill where other people live. I mean, it's a fairly self-contained property. There's an access road on the bottom. There's an access road on the top. There's been so many things that James and Shauna have done to improve the property. I'm there pretty much every day, taking care of watering, vines, fixing water emitters, you name it, if it needs to be done. I've met many of the horse owners, if not all of them, throughout the time. I've been affiliated with James and Shauna in helping to make the wine there since 2018, 2019. The things that he's done to improve the property, it was rather decrepit before. Sadly, the previous owners weren't taking care of the property as they let it go through sale. So I urge you to let this process complete. I think it's great for the community. So many of the horse owners have had, issues physically, mentally. Horses have been adopted. It's been a really positive thing for the community, I think, and for everyone involved, minus a neighbor or two. It's been a very nice thing, and there are no plans to ever turn the winemaking process into a commercial operation. We have one of those trailers for our wine office. Again, it's 1.1 acres. We're getting about 4 to 5 cases a year from the property. And for the most part, we consume it ourselves, but we share it largely with our friends of the property as well.
We have a question for you, too. Were you done?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Cooney?
Thank you for coming to our otherwise very involved review of this project.
It's been a
But
process.
I have listened enough about the care with the wine production. I'd like to know what kinds of wine you're producing there.
We have Pinot Noir and Syrah.
Fantastic.
So roughly 5 vineyards. 2 of them are on the top. Number 3 is in the middle, and then there's 2 on the bottom. And then actually we added a 6th. We planted some Sangiovese roughly 5 years ago.
Nice.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, following Mr. Farley, we have Juan Rubio. I think that's the spelling or the pronunciation. Do we have a Juan?
He's just here to support us.
Okay, he doesn't have to speak. Okay, and that was it. Do we have someone online or?
We have 2 attendees online. If you'd like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll call on you. And so that's Mr. Zatz or Mr. Dietrich. If either one of you would like to speak, I've unmuted you. No pressure, but just want to give you the opportunity.
This is Steve Dietrich, and I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity, but I think the prior speakers have said what needed to be said. And again, I appreciate this process very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dietrich.
Is that it?
I believe that is the remainder of our speakers.
Okay. Okay, so with that, we close the public comment portion of this. It's 10:25. Do we want to take a quick break and then come back for the deliberations? Okay, well, let's come back in 10 minutes, 10:35. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're going to recommence our meeting of April 9th of the Santa Barbara County Planning Commission, and that brings us back to any comments that staff might want to forward to the commission as a result of public comment. Did you have anything you want to mention?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if you don't mind. So when going through the final packet, we noticed that the Public Works condition letter for the project included a older version of the project description. So Jax contacted Public Works and had them update the letter. And Jax, we just wanted to mention that, and if necessary, we're happy to read something into the record, but we just wanted to note that the Public Works comment letter that was attached, condition letter that was attached to the staff report has now been updated.
And it was just the project description, it wasn't any of their conditions, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And that was placed in your packet, so you guys did receive a copy of it.
That was the email.
It was an
That was
email.
the pure
Yeah,
water.
Yeah,
Correct.
That,
right.
okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooney, did you have anything you wanted to add, or? No? Okay. Secretary Wilson is leaning in. Did you have?
So, Madam Chair, just give the, allow the applicants opportunity for rebuttal for any of the public comment.
Okay. Mr. Simmons, did you want to add anything in response to the praise you just heard?
I have nothing to add, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Okay, so that brings it to the commission for deliberations. Commissioner Park, this is in your district, so you want to start us off?
Yes, I would. I think we'll be done early today. And I also suspect this is not a very controversial project in front of the commission, but I'd still like to make a couple of comments. I want to address two things about the project and then two things that are more general. And I'm doing that because, as you'll see when I discuss the general things, there are other properties in similar situations throughout the valley that are Ag 1 in dealing with horse training and boarding issues. And I think it's important that the board have that, or rather the commission have that broader context, because it'll be important in the future, but not necessarily for this. So let me go ahead. First thing I want to do is express my appreciation to staff for such a complete and careful report. I kind of giggled when I first read it, and I thought, okay, this is Ms. Ibarra who's doing the same kind of report she would for a giant Exxon project. Am I right? Yeah. I'm looking at the guy who supervised and read it. Yeah, and so that's a compliment, okay? And I wondered, how did it get in front of you guys? And I guess it's because it was a compliance item.
Oh, good question.
No, Madam Chair and Commissioner Park, there was a time period where development review staff was overloaded with work, and Ms. Ibarra had a little bit of capacity, so we agreed to take on a project or two, and this is her last remaining DevRev project, so.
Oh, okay.
We're just doing him a favor.
And so that's what dragged you in here, because you're here like every week now, and you're probably regretting taking that promotion, I think.
Get used to it.
I hope you're well paid. Okay, well, let me go on. On the specifics of this project, there's a reference to 37,000 square feet plus of development, and that's why you have a DPA. And I think you have to have a development plan when it goes over 20,000 feet. Well, there was well over 20,000 feet here before the Phelans ever bought the property. But I think it's important to consider some of the components of that 37,000 square feet. You've got a large covered arena. You've got a tennis court. The tennis court, and you must know the dimensions very well, Commissioner Briley. Maybe you don't. But that's thousands of square feet right then and there. And that counts. When we did our site visit, we walked across a little edge for the gazebo. And the gazebo counts as a structure. So there's all these things that make up this 37,000 square feet. When you wander around the property, it doesn't look like a large development. And I think our builder, Mr. Wooden, was kind of commenting on that. It looks like a sort of an organic farming type set of structures. To me, it's a relatively modest operation. I'm pretty familiar with boarding facilities. And one thing I asked about when I was out there was, where are you going to put all the trailer parking? Because you go to most boarding facilities, each person that boards a horse brings their trailer and leaves it there and stores it there. And Mr. Phelan said, well, I don't want that kind of operation. I'm not going to do that. And so we're not going to store everybody's trailer. And in fact, most of the boarders are in the neighborhood or they're local people. They don't need to store their trailers there. And that's just the kind of detail that will improve the looks of the place and shows that their intentions are pretty humble. Let me go on to the topography. I drive up and down that Ballard Canyon Road a lot because it's my way to circumvent the traffic in Solvang. And it wasn't until Monday, reading the staff report and going out there, that I realized that the lower part of the property was actually on the same lot as the upper part. Okay, I just never crossed my mind. But I'm glad to hear that, because if you drive up Ballard Canyon Road, I got to be tactful in putting this. You see some nicely maintained buildings, that's theirs, okay? And you see some that maybe don't quite match that standard. Is that tactful enough? And that's not theirs. And I was glad to find that the development was theirs. It's got its own entrances. It looks different. It's at lower level. The people that come in there for these relatively few events, these clinics and things like that, or just come in to use the covered arena, the other neighbors in Mesa Hills Development will never even know they're there. They'd never have a way of seeing them. So the topography makes a tremendous amount of difference here. Now let me go on to general things that I think are important. I facilitated and organized a meeting, was it a year or two ago? I think you folks were there. Some of you were. And it was with Supervisor Hartman and people with Ag 1 equestrian properties all over the valley. And, Ag 1, we have some that are 50 and 60 and 70 acres, a lot of them that are 5 acres, but quite a few that are in the 20, 25 acres like this one. And we have a problem in the valley. That is, people want to have horses, but they have nowhere to board them. People that, from the horse owner perspective, they're looking to spend sometimes $800, $1,000 a month to get a space and feel lucky to get one. And lucky to find a trainer and somebody to take good care of their horse. But from the landowner's perspective, it's a labor of love because it takes a lot of money to maintain one. And so people aren't so interested in doing commercial boarding facilities. So having somebody who steps up and wants to do it, it's just great for the community. We're going to have to adjust our zoning laws. It's something that we all came to the conclusion about after our meeting a couple years ago, because they basically don't allow commercial operation on Ag 1 properties, but so much of the valley is Ag 1, where you would put this kind of thing. And a commercial operation would be charging for a lesson, boarding a horse, simple things that people have done forever up there. And to have a commercial operation, you have to get a conditional use permit. That may make sense with 5-acre properties like my own, but when you get to these, it's we might be better off with some legislation, at least at the county level, that has some development standards and avoids the CUP process. But that's down the road. This property has to deal with an alleged violation and get it over with. So they can't await getting revised county ordinances in a couple of years. And you heard on the work plan, by the way, that's just one issue that was brought up. I want to mention one last thing, and I think Mr. Walker brought it up, and then seeing Mr. Griffin makes me think about it. I put on clinics. In fact, I did one where Mr. Walker was referring to. Flag is up. I put on 4 endurance rides last year, and the smallest ranch I used was 38,000 acres. We had one that was 47,000, one that was 70,000 acres. And I realized we have a equestrian agricultural horse, whatever you want to call it, culture in Santa Barbara County that's unique and really special. I learned, for example, that the first vaqueros, the ones that were the labor force for these large ranches, they were all Chumash. That was our original horseback riders. And if you go back and look at the cow trails, say near New Cuyama, you're looking at cow trails that were established by Chumash vaqueros on old Chumash trails. So our horse culture goes back literally to the Chumash and beyond in what we use and do. I consider Mr. Griffin to be part of that culture. I met Mr. Griffin, I think, 12, 15 years ago. I don't know. I was in a legal dispute because that's what I did for a living. And poor Mr. Griffin was right in the middle of it. It wasn't his fault, but he's somebody I had to talk to as a witness. And we had a lot of conversations about horses and riding and philosophies. And I learned he was sort of a kindred soul because his training is all about let the horse be a natural animal and go train it on the trail and do things like that. And I won't go on about that, but he and I have for hours. And it's very exemplary. He's trained all around the state, all around the country. He has quite a following. This horse culture, if we don't have facilities like this, it can't last. It will die out. We'll just be another San Fernando Valley or something like that. And we have to take care to allow that culture to continue to exist with the kind of people that you're seeing today. And I'm glad Mr. Walker was here because I remember sitting in on one of the, I did a different kind of clinic at Flags Up, but sitting on the one that he was talking about. And those clinics aren't just for veterans, they're for the families of veterans. That's the important piece. And it's just so important to people and their development. You know, I'm going to have juniors at my next endurance ride. A lot of them will be little girls. And when those little girls face the peer pressure they get when they're teenagers, the fact that they've been able to ride a horse 50 miles that weighs 800 pounds and keep it in control, they're pretty tough little girls. And it gives people some great ways of dealing with the vicissitudes of life that they wouldn't get otherwise. So I, of course, am very much in support of this project and what it means to the area. The one tricky thing for me was concern about the road access on the private road to the top. I realized so much of the road access will be from the bottom. They'll never get there. And it's very comforting to me to know that Fire has taken a really good look at this proposal and asked for certain things they were done. And this is one situation where I really want to rely on the fire department's review. I don't think that they supplant what the planning commission does, but on things like, is the road suitable for their trucks to get up there? That's really important, and they've done it. So at the appropriate time, I will make a motion to approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Park. Commissioner Reed?
Hey, I was glad to actually make the trip out and visit the site of this project. While I've had a number of people in my family who've really been into the horse culture, had a great-great-great-grandfather who had a ranch in Sisquoc, raised, trained, and sold horses to a lot of people in the Santa Barbara community years ago. Our current ranches, we have no horses. Most of my personal experience on horses has been riding to ones that have been attached to a ring. But although I have some colleagues who have the goal of getting me back on one, so we'll see. But nonetheless, it was really refreshing to look at this project. I know initially looking at it, aside from the fact that the new additions are a modest footprint, about 9,500 square feet, but if you look at all of the structures, it seems large. But when you visit the site, all the proposed newer structures seem complementary to those already existing, and looking at the scale of the site, rather modest. I think also the design is very attractive. I'm very reassured by the the applicant's willingness to make so many trips to the Board of Architectural Review to invite their input. But I think looking at the plans, where they're going to be, and the existing structures, I think they'll be complementary, harmonious. Also, when at the site, you look around at neighboring properties. I couldn't see the neighboring houses. I don't think the neighbors will actually be able to see any of this, except for some properties that seem to be half a mile or a mile away on a hill someplace. So it's pretty much self-contained. I think it'll be very attractive, and it'll be very complementary both to the operations and the existing structures. I think the community has had very ample opportunity to comment on it. I'm greatly reassured that we only had 2 letters taking it to task, but we had a great many letters of support, which seemed sincere and heartfelt, and were original compositions, not so often what we see look like somebody who's generated a bunch of friends to write letters, all writing from a list of talking points. These were all original, creative, and that indicates to me that these people are really aligned with the applicant and the project. And additionally, I don't think I've ever seen a project that had so many people making heartfelt and sincere comments in person. So I almost feel, well, another thing that I really like about this project, it actually seems like somebody who's trying to restore and maintain a very important local resource, not some of the very gentrified leviathans we see that appeal to the elite horsey type community, but this seems like it's something that's dedicated for real people who live here and will be very important in promoting and maintaining a local resource. I almost feel that the applicant is a custodian of an important local resource, not just an owner. So I would be absolutely in favor of supporting this.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Anybody else have anything to say? Commissioner Martinez.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to let the applicant know that I know my questions were about water, because obviously being from the city, and coming up here, that's the first thing I learned about, is if somebody's water gets pushed onto somebody else's, they got some problems. But the answers were sufficient for me to say the following, is that I see this project as a ranch property. I see this project as somebody improving what's already there and building upon and actually addressing some problems and making it right. I have to applaud that in regards to the situations. People have their complaints in regards to people, and I'll put myself in this situation, because I'm always in this situation. I'm one of those people that comes from Orange County and moves up here. And I came up with one thing in situation is I saw what was lost in Orange County, and I can see what can be lost here. And I'll leave it at that I will wholeheartedly approve this project. Thank you.
We're not going to run you out. Thank you. Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a big believer in site visits, and have plenty of opportunities for them in the first district. My schedule was exceptionally clogged during this review. Mr. Simmons called me right at the beginning and invited me to come to the property and take a look. And as my colleagues have indicated, it was very helpful to them to actually see the land. So I regretted that. And although the time conflicts are still there, I'd like to reach out to Mr. Simmons and see if, even if this project is approved, which I think it will be, it's worth it to me to see what's been done there, and it'll be good evidence for the future of projects throughout the valley. So with that request, I definitely support the project.
Thank you. Okay, so in conclusion, my comments are also, thanks to staff again, because that report was pretty amazing. And thank you to the applicant. Again, the 11 by 17 exhibits, the good communication, the good outreach, that's wonderful. And thank you to the owner for the stamina to get through the process. We hear a lot about how the county's so hard to get through and everything takes so long. And especially if you're in a zoning violation situation, it's really easy to say negative things. But in the end, it has a place, and I really appreciated staff explaining that when you have a development plan, we bid all of it in there, and that's probably going to be good for the owner and the property long range. So I completely appreciate Commissioner Park's call out of the equestrian community and the culture. As we heard from a lot of public testimony, it reminds me of the Rancho Vistadores, which tries to do that every year too. And the last thing that I can add that maybe hasn't been said was I really appreciate the fact that whatever new buildings you have, you're kind of trying to do an architectural theme that ties them together, because I think the owner got a property that wasn't necessarily coordinated, and now with a couple new buildings and however else you're maintaining it, it's become a nice little campus. So I'm anxious to hear more from Commissioner Park about how to encourage boarding facilities in our Ag 1 zones. That's a topic for another day, but everything I heard today, it's lovely to have a hearing where everybody is in support of it. I mean, that was pretty amazing. That's a lovely way to start my April. So thank you, and I'd be in support. So with that, we turn it back to, hopefully, Commissioner Park.
There you go. Well, I appreciate the other commissioners' comments, because I think that shows the public the kinds of things we think about. And with respect to Commissioner Martinez's questions about water, I had the same questions. I just went and saw it on site and realized that really one thing you think about too is just, are you dumping water full of feces out into a creek and things like that? And they've addressed all that with their manure plan and with that. So those are all good questions. Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project, and I'm going to refer to the recommendations that are on page 2 and section 2 of the staff report, and they're repeated in more or less the same language on slide number 11, recommended actions. And so I move we approve, we make these actions, and to be more specific, that we make the required findings for approval, including the CEQA findings. We adopt I think that's reference to MND, mitigated negative declaration, and adopt the mitigation monitoring program contained in the conditions of approval. We approve the case subject to the conditions of approval, and that's the CUP case, and we also approve the development plan case subject to the conditions of approval, also included in the staff report in its attachments.
If you could please include the revised letter.
And including the revised letter is from Public Works? Yeah. That we approved that, which had a relatively minimal revised reference to the updated project description.
Okay, and do we have a second? Go ahead.
I will second.
Okay. Why don't you do a roll call?
Commissioner Cooney?
Aye.
Commissioner Park?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Chair Bridley?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And before we leave, we have to deal with the cancellation of the meeting, right?
Yes, Madam Chair, if you will permit me, I would move that we cancel our meeting scheduled now for April 30th.
I second that. How anxious am I? Yeah. So do we need to, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah. Okay, with that, we adjourn. Thank you, everyone.